Hey, Pat here with another talking point. Today I wanted to take a look at something that is known and documented online, but it isn't exactly everywhere. So I thought that I would have some fun demonstrating the ones that I have found. And so today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Generation 1 Combiner Leaders. Now I'm going to assume that everyone has seen these toys. If not, you can find other reviews on YouTube. But what I wanted to focus on was what really got me excited years ago when I found out that in 3 of the Combiner Leaders, there actually used to be a launching mechanism that was released in Japan, but was not released in the United States. And as a kid, my 2 combiners that I loved the most, probably because they were the ones that I had in their entirety, were Devastator and Bruticus. So when I found out that Onslaught from the Combaticons with Bruticus actually had a launcher in him, I had to have one. I ended up finding a couple of them at BotCon in 2006, and I actually found a Silverbolt there too. And then the third one was a lot more tricky, and I didn't end up finding one until the last BotCon, but I made it in under the wire and got one for myself. So I thought today we would take a look at those, and first off we're going to start with Silverbolt. At first you really don't notice a difference between this one and the Japanese one because it's kind of hard to see, but as a kid I think that it was very apparent that there was a bit of a vestige of something going on here, because whenever you would transform Silverbolt and move his chest down in order to flip this back, there's this other red thing in here that was just kind of floppy. And if you turn it upside down, it flops because it's just this weird moving thing. And I think that we could all figure out what that was and what it was intended for. But how exactly it worked was still a little bit of a mystery to me. The big difference here is you could see that this is on a spring. And so that's going to be the spring mechanism for that. But there has to be a catch as well. And how do you actually have the button that makes it launch? Right here, when you flip the chest down on a Generation 1 American one, you see that. On a G1 Takara one, you'll actually see that there's a little red dot there. And that's kind of the tell if you are looking for one of these online. You have to look for the catch. Because the way that this functions is that this red mechanism goes up and then it catches on that button. Okay, now here I have transformed Silverbolt into his ramp mode as per the Takara instructions. So if you'll just push this back and then press the button, which is the landing gear, and it launches. There are some bootlegs out there, and some of the really high quality bootlegs I think leave out the launching mechanism, and some of the really low quality bootlegs, such as this one, actually have the launching mechanism in there. I bought this one, I think I bought this one back in 2002 maybe at Dollar General, and I think that it was about 10 bucks or 8 bucks or something like that for an entire boxed set. Whenever I bought it, I did not yet have the launcher with Silverbolt. And so I took it apart to see if I could just throw it in a Generation 1 one, and you can't. They are too small. Okay, let's launch some aerial bots. And next we have Onslaught, who is definitely my favorite. Now, there are some variations on Onslaught that existed in the United States, so that's kind of important to keep in mind. The earliest ones actually had a metal chest like this one here, and those were ones that had been stamped made in Japan. Actually, the Silverbolts that I just showed you, those were both also made in Japan. However, this later Onslaught, he's stamped made in Macau. And there is one in between here because this one has a gray chest. This one has a metal silver chest. The one in between is also a silver chest, but it's made of plastic, like the later gray chest. Anyone who had the Generation 1 Onslaught probably noticed that there were these smooth olive-colored spots on the back of the truck. Now, those actually do a good job of creating some color on the back of the figure, so you may not have suspected anything in particular, and I wouldn't blame you. But whenever you convert this guy into launching mode, you have to think that maybe something was intended to be there. So whenever I was at BotCon and I was finding these, I was blown away by the fact that not only was there a figure that had the launcher, but there were two of them, and they weren't the same. One of them that you can see here, actually I have multiples here because as I've been hunting these down, I've been buying ones that are in varying condition, trying to kind of upgrade, and to look into an issue that I seem to have discovered. And on the Japanese one, you can see that you had the launching mechanism and the button to launch it. There's a variation on these, and it is a flat, smooth button with a silver chest made in Japan, or a raised round button that looks like it was sculpted on top of the flat, smooth button. And that one has a gray chest, and it is made in Macau. And the weird thing is that the way that this functions is you push it back, and then you press the button and it launches. And I could do that over and over again with the one with the raised button. But the ones that I have with the smooth button, you raise them up and you can press all you want, but man, they don't want to go anywhere. I have to think that because we do know that the gray one in the United States was the later one, the Macau one, that this was an improvement meant to fix the smooth button. So maybe that raised button actually created a little bit more leverage. So if you have more leverage, you may actually be able to press more, but also feels like there's something going on internally, and I haven't cracked one of these open in order to narrow down exactly what that may be. So let's transform this guy into ramp mode and watch this thing in action. There is this chest piece for Onslaught, and it does peg in to the launching mechanism. However, the instructions don't say to use it, and I do think that putting it on there kind of blocks your ability to get in and push the button, as does the cannon from Onslaught, but the cannon makes everything look cool, so I wouldn't want to not put that on there. I think that you may be able to put this on in vehicle mode and store it then, but you probably could use it as a launcher. It definitely creates a wider push bar. Maybe it just depends on which character you're trying to push out of here. We'll give it a try without it first and launch ourselves a Swindle. Nothing happened. So maybe the instructions to not use that aren't so good. I'm going to put it on and then we'll give it another shot. Yeah, that works much better. So I would say that the instructions may have been lacking in the fact that they did not say to put this on. Okay, and one of the really cool things that we can actually look at in addition to the figures would be the Toy Fair catalogs that showed all of the pre-production figures of these. And I've rescanned this page several times trying to look to see if I can find the switch on Onslaught, but I really can't tell. It looks like there may be a hole for where it may go, but that it's not there. I don't think that that means that they weren't intending on putting it in. I just think that that means that the sample that's in there is kind of just thrown together very quickly. And we might as well launch the rest of the Combaticons as well. Now the last one that I have to show here was really difficult for me to find because whenever you find it online, rarely does anyone picture it with the ramp mode open, and that seems to be the only way that you can actually see the launching mechanism. So the last one that I have to show is Motormaster. Now the American Motormaster actually showed the instructions for creating the ramp mode just like this. However, for the purpose of comparison, I kind of want to put them both in the same configuration, which is in the Japanese version of the instructions, which is to have it like this. And you can see on the American one that there's a black square with a black line behind it, and that's because obviously that's where the launcher goes on the Japanese one. Here we have the one that I got at BotCon, and it has the launching mechanism pushes back, and then in the back here there is a button that launches it. And launch. And you can see that on some American Motormasters, the actual catch for the launching mechanism has also been removed. And I don't know if they did that as an added safety, because I don't know who may have been able to potentially engineer their own launching mechanisms into this, but who knows. Because Motormaster did come with a small car that is used as the chest. I always thought that that was a nice feature as a kid, that I wanted a Motormaster for that reason. But it kind of works well, I think, to have it along with an actual launcher. It kind of gives him a little bit of an Optimus Prime's trailer kind of feel. Now, to be quite honest, I actually have some trouble here getting this to always work. The catch works a little bit too well, and as I push down, quite often, the entire mechanism will just go down with the button rather than being released from it. But here are all the stunt cons launching. I think the danger of the way that Motormaster is designed is that you can't really tell whether or not the mechanism is extending the spring or if it is in a relaxed position inside the package whenever it's all transformed. So ideally you wouldn't be putting stress on that spring whenever he's in robot mode, but you really can't tell. He can be stored either way. So I'm just going to transform him back, just to make sure that that's true, now that I've said it. So each one of these was also made to combine with Metroplex and with Trypticon, and really all they do is kind of rest onto the end of the legs of those characters. One of the more interesting ones, in my opinion, is actually how Hotspot connects to those. He connects sort of by the back end of his repair bay mode. So Hotspot doesn't seem to include a launching mechanism. There's been a lot of people theorizing that maybe at one point he was intended to. We can go back to that Toy Fair catalog and look at it and see if there's any kind of sign that that was the case. But again, Hotspot in there is just so extremely rudimentary. It's not a finished figure in there at all. And in the following Toy Fair catalog, you can see Hotspot again, and there seems to be something weird going on with his stomach area that maybe would be an area where there would be some sort of mechanism. But looking at that, it's really off-center, and I believe that that's just a sticker. I don't think that that's anything special.
It should be noted that Hotspot only connects to the rectangular shape without the notch cut out of it. The one with the notch is always next to a clip that kind of prevents Hotspot from being able to click into place. And what this means is that this rectangular spot is only suitable for attaching Motormaster. And the Decepticon's attached to Metroplex because this is still a holdover from these designs being originally intended for the Diaclone toy line, where all these characters would have been on the same faction. And as you just saw, the rectangle on the back of Onslaught's head fits snugly into Metroplex. And as I said, all these characters connect to Trypticon via those leg clips that fit on his back in dinosaur mode.
So that's it for today. I thought that it would just be fun to pull these out and take a look at these features because they are online elsewhere. I remember looking at Fred's workshop and reading about them years ago, back whenever it was like I don't know if that was an Angel Fire site or what it may have been, but I was dying to get these things in my hands, and I didn't have a full collection of them until the final BotCon had happened. And I'm really excited about them, and each time I pull them out, it's just a lot of fun for me to have something that's Generation 1 with a little bit more features. So thanks a lot, and if you like, clip and save our channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching this episode of Articulated Points. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'd appreciate it if you would like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about some of the toys featured in this episode or want to follow us on social media, links are in the description below this video.